Alright, so today in this little tutorial, I'm just going to go through the process of actually making an animation where we move an object along a path. So what I'm going to start with is I've got a base surface here. Here's just some terrain. I'll just change the scale there. We're going to move the camera through the animation. So this is the animation path that the camera is going to follow. It's just a polyline that we've created. And then we've got an object that we want to animate. And so for this example, I've just pulled in a little model of a dinosaur, of a T-Rex, just for something interesting. This came in as an OBJ file, I think, with the texture, and then I saved as a surface. And then we have a path that we're going to animate this guy along. So if I just pull in my terrain again, it's going to start here and walk along the surface. So to create this animation, we're going to do it through an animation script, and we can create the animation script in the text menu, animation, and create animation script. And so what this is going to do is we're going to give it some inputs for our camera, for our base surface, for the object we want to animate, and it's going to create a Python script file that we can then modify a little bit to actually run the animation. So I'm just going to call this animation script dino. Duration, I'll make it 10 seconds long at 24 frames per second. I want to clear graphics when we start this, hide the scale bar and the orientation widget. So the next thing is we're going to define our camera. So the camera type here is going to be along a path, and I'll just call this camera 1. Start time 0, end time 10, so over the entire course of the animation. And my path is going to be the camera path file. The next thing is I'll add my geometry, so this is just my base grid, and that is going to be in the base directory and grid. Next thing is my object that I want to animate. So I'm going to add a row here, and so it's going to be animated over the time step of 0 to 10 seconds. The geometry will be this dino surface. The animation path will be the object path. So the anchor is basically what part of that object is following that path, and I want the bottom of my dinosaur to be on the ground. Object scale, we'll make it 1. It's going to be visible for the whole animation anyway, so we don't need to worry about these other boxes. And so we just hit OK. And we can see that's created a script here called dino.py. So if we right click and edit, we've got our script here. So it's basically, this is boilerplate code. It's imported all the things that it needs. There are a couple of things that if we try and run this script, we'll get an error. So it's going to say here, line 34, set the focus point to a position. So we need to tell the script what point on the ground to focus on. So I'm going to load up my grid here, and I'm going to focus maybe somewhere around the middle of the surface here. And if I tap the letter C, that will copy the coordinates of that point to the clipboard. So then I can come back into here, and down in line 35 here, I've got my focus point, and I'm just going to paste my coordinate in here. I'm putting it in brackets so it becomes a Python tuple. So basically, it's a 3D point here. I'm going to get rid of this line here, because otherwise, when I run the script again, this will just flag that focus point error. And so I can save that and run it. So when I run this, it's going to just, the camera's going to follow around the path. The dinosaur is going to be animated on the surface. It's just moving the object along that line. And as we're doing it too, we've also, you can see here it's creating an AVI file. If we need to stop the animation, we can hit this stop macro button down the bottom. And then once it's animated enough frames to do 10 seconds of video at 24 frames a second, it will stop. So if I click on my an AVI file here and hit open, it will open it in the default viewer. And so there's the animation. A few things that we might want to do here, we can play with the scale. So in our script file here, there's the option to set our scales here. So at the moment, this parallel scale, because we're not using a perspective camera, the scale is controlled by this parallel scale factor. So what we can do is if we make it smaller, it will zoom in. So if I save that and run my Dino script again. So now, we can fiddle with that a little bit to try and work out, what we, where we want the camera to be positioned, or what we want the scale to be, so that we get an acceptable result. So I'll just stop that. If we want to make this into a perspective camera instead of an orthographic camera, we can use perspective camera to be true. We can set our view angle, so basically this controls the scaling, so I'll set it to maybe be 60 and save that, and then run my Dino script again. And so there it is, using a perspective camera. Okay, so this is kind of just a pretty simple little script. You could have multiple objects if you want. You could have objects that start and stop at different times, that appear and disappear, and so on. But have a play around with it, have fun with it. If anyone has any questions with it, just please give me a shout and we'll help you out. Thanks.